Hi again. I forgot my headphones. Wait, real quick. Yeah, okay, that's my headphones. Let's go. Yeah, just starting up everything and continue where we worked on yesterday. So our plan here is to work on this editor window, which we are going to create with a new Unity UI system, which is supposed to be edited in Create GUI, and so we're using the Unity UI toolkit which has come out in 2022, and there's some red flags that we saw there, that the new system actually is not that developed yet. People say there's functions missing, and when I was going over it, I encountered some quirks, but we don't have deep insight yet. So instead of keeping complaining, we see the warning signs, but in the end, Unity says this is going to be the Unity UI toolkit for the future, and we have to use it now. Yeah. So if we want our asset to be available in the next years, for the next years, we need to use the best QA systems, and we want to future-proof it, and that means we can't use all our systems like the old GUI Unity system, which is then going to be problematic as soon as we have some updates and it becomes legacy code. And then Unity might say, hey, this is not working with our current system anymore, and we have to update it and put work into the asset again. And you don't want that. If you give anything out, you want to have things up to date to the current standard, and if something big new, and this is the next new big thing for Unity, comes out, you have to implement it as fast as possible. If you are working on Unreal Engine and you ignore systems like Lumen or Nanite and work with older systems, you risk that your project becomes obsolete, and then you have then nobody's going to download it. The people who download it are not going to have a great time because they work with legacy stuff, and they say, hey, I want to be a good developer, and I get this old code here that is going to work for a little bit of time, and then I will have to fix this asset. That's terrible. Don't do that to people. You have to think of the developers who are going to use it. And that's why we are going to develop on this editor window even further. Okay, let's look how the window looks right now. It's very simple right now. It says hello stream, has a create and cancel button. These buttons don't do anything. We need to implement that soon. But and then we want to open this window inside of this function here. This function will be is inside here. Here's this select something in the hierarchy. Here's this function where we create a timer group. It opens one window now, and we get asked a bunch of questions, and we want all these questions in one window. That's pretty simple, and we have this preset, and this preset is going to be inside of here, inside of inspector. We're just putting this inspector right here so we can edit it now. It's going to look something like this. So we have this inside. That's what we want. But we need to put in more work so that it's not a tab inside, but a panel field inside. So you can work on it seamlessly. You'll have to create a temporary preset that where we can store our values until we click on create. So we don't change the preset. There's a lot of work to be done, but the hardest work that we have to do is get this values inside of here, and then we want to do something with that. Yeah, and that's the hard thing. And I don't know how when we click on create, how to get the values. Yeah, that's going to be a good question, because we can't code it into the window directly, or maybe we can just code it into the window. It wouldn't be that bad. Maybe that would be a good idea. So currently you click on this and it's going to see, do you have a camera reference point? If you don't have this point, create it. Then it goes in, did you select an object in the hierarchy? If not, throw an error message. You would have to do that stuff before we open this window. I think it's easier to have create, call a function inside of this code here, than to wait in this code for the user to click on create, because then we would still need to fetch the data that the user has created. Okay, but there are questions of practicality. What we want to do today is just get an inspector inside of the window. So let's see. Unity UI toolkit, custom inspector. Create a custom inspector, UI system. I don't know what. So they say you can do it with root add inspector element. I think we have seen different code for it yesterday. Create. so yeah, from now on I'm just going to try to work on that, and it's probably going to take some time, so it might be not that exciting for now. Yep. I'm going to the bathroom real quick, BRB. Okay, let's go on. Yeah, this looks like a really good potential guide. Just have to understand what exactly they are doing, because I can just go in and copy this inspector here, but I wouldn't have a clue what I'm doing here. Or I would have a clue, but I wouldn't know exactly what I'm doing. That's why I'm going to read the tutorial for now. So they go ahead and create an inspector. Okay, that's a little bit unfortunate because they immediately start with the custom inspector. They don't have an editor window type. So what we want is we want to have an editor window with an inspector, not an inspector with editor window functions. So I think this guide, I leave it open, but I think this guide is unfortunately not for us. It looks like it looked like exactly what I was searching for, but on further inspection, it's exactly what we are not going to do. We're not going to write an custom inspector. We want a custom inspector inside an editor window. That's a fundamental difference that we should not underestimate. So I think we need to add an inspector element. Which is one of the things that what I said is a big red flags, excuse me, thing is still seems to be poorly documented. So we are pretty much left on our own on just trying things out until they work, which is going to be a time sink, of course. So this we need to add an inspector element. That's what I can have found out so far. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. Yeah, but how do we do that? I'd like to see some code on how we need to do it. If they say we need to create a visual element. Visual element. So probably just want to look at the next tutorial here.
UI Toolkit is now the recommended way to create editor scripts for things like custom inspectors in Unity. As of Unity version 2022.2, I believe, Unity actually switched from IMGUI, and now all their default inspectors are drawn using UI Toolkit, which you can see is being confirmed with our UI debugger here. This video is for you if you don't know much or anything about editor scripting, and you want to get your feet wet and learn a little bit style. You can see there's really nothing to it, it just holds some data. So to get started, we first need to here for things like custom inspectors in Unity. As of Unity version 2022.2, I believe, Unity actually switched from IMGUI, and now all their default inspectors are drawn using UI Toolkit, which you can see is being confirmed with our UI debugger here. This video is for you if you don't know much or anything about editor scripting, and you want to get your feet wet and learn a little bit using the newer, easier editor scripting methods that UI Toolkit gives you.
Okay, so this immediately says that it's not just us who are going to use the UI toolkit from for the future. It's Unity itself that they switched over their own internal system to the new GUI UI toolkit.
What we're going to create from scratch is a custom inspector for this script here. I will show you how to style it very easily so that you can organize your data better. I'll show you how to make use of rich text, how to add and assign functions to buttons, and how to hide certain objects based on the value of a bool variable. Ready? Let's go. So I have this little player attacks stats script, and you can see there's really nothing to it. It just holds some data. So to get started, we first need to create an editor script, and it needs to be inside a folder called editor. Otherwise, you're going to get errors when you try to build your game. The editor folder does not need to be in the root. It can be anywhere in your project. So I'm going to create a player attacks stats editor and open it up. Now, right off the bat, there are 3 namespaces we're going to need to add: Unity Editor, Unity Editor.UIElements, and Unity Engine.UIElements. And we're not inheriting from MonoBehavior. We want to inherit from editor, as this is an editor script. And now we need to connect this editor script to our player attacks stats script, because this editor script is going to tell Unity's UI how to draw the inspector, basically. So we can add a custom editor attribute type of player attacks stats up here. Perfect. Now we need to call the method that actually draws the inspector. If you type override, we're looking for the create inspector GUI function. You'll notice right now, if we save, nothing has changed. It looks exactly like it did. This base here is essentially doing the default drawing for us, but we don't want to do that, so let's get rid of it. And now to show you that this is working, you'll notice that this method needs to return a visual element. So let's create a new one called root and return it. Okay, now it doesn't show anything, which is perfect because now we can build a visual element. So let's create a new one called root and return it. Okay, now it doesn't show anything, which is perfect because now we can build it from the ground up like we want. And you can do this completely with code if you want, which would be very similar to the old IamGUI way. However, I want to show you how to do it in the UI builder instead. So in my UXML folder here, I'm going to...
So one thing, same thing as before. This is an inspector inside of the inspector view component window. Yeah, this is not what we want. It's just
UI document.
Very important to notice here.
3 different visual elements to act as containers. I'm going to call these pane 1, pane 2, and pane 3. Now in pane...
So what we want probably to do is I want to create a new visual element. The inspector. And let's just see if there's maybe autofill option here. Yeah, it says so. And actually I'm a little bit surprised that the inspector element does not expect us to define the inspector itself. So now we want to look up the parameters. The inspector. Constructor. Okay, it says it accepts a visual element. So let's just try to get our parallax group preset inside. I don't think that is going to work, but let's see. No, it expects us to put something else than a class name. It wants an object. A class is not an object. It's a type. So how do we get this as an object? Could try to load in reset a scriptable object, which is an object, but I'm not sure if that would be possible. Main issue remains. I know exactly what I want to do and have the programming skills to do so, but don't know how this new system of Unity works and need to keep putting effort into that until I hope that the problem just breaks down. Okay, here they are talking about different tutorials. I need what I need is actual code. So theoretical discussions are not that interesting.
Are very nice from a user perspective because they offer a clear and beginner-friendly edit UI directly inside the Unity Inspector panel. Finally, in my UI manager, I can set up a listener for these events that uses the update data display as a callback function, and here we are. If we rerun the game now, we see that the data is initialized upon start like before, and then when I modify a value in my scriptable object via the inspector, the UI automatically updates to reflect this change. So that's really cool, we can actually control our UI in-game via the asset file in our project. But guess what? We can also use another script to write our data and still have these updates done via the code. Indeed, another very common use of scriptable objects is to store project-wide, or at least session-wide data. If you've ever had to implement persistent data in your games, you might have come across the don't destroy unload function. That's a method that you can add to a script on any of your game objects to have them survive after a scene change. That's very nice when you want to keep the actual game object with its transform and update function, but when it's just about passing on data, this is a bit overkill and inefficient. Rather, here we can rely on a scriptable object to keep our data neatly organized and yet persistent across scenes. Don't forget that because it is serialized on disk, the data doesn't get discarded during runtime, or when you exit play mode. This is great if you're into scripting.
Okay, here also we see that this is not on. We don't see the on create function of the UI toolkit.
Scriptable
So,
objects are
ah,
data containers.
one problem we're just running into
Sponsored by
is that there's not a lot of tutorials,
messaging.
and the
Now,
tutorials or the
health
tutorials
is a max
don't cover that
health.
specific
We have a
thing that
function
we want
here
to do.
called decrease health, which
Bad
is
example.
process
Bad
to the
example.
script. So in the on enable of this script enter, we call the health manager, which in this dependent, so we can avoid any problems with reloading scenes and the dependent. However, you could do something similar with a mod say that it needs code early access to video.
Mm-hmm. Oh, got to Google that up again. One hour, okay.
Hi. In this video, I would like to I will move as fast as possible because this is a long one from anywhere and inside Unity. So I'm going to create a folder called editors and editor.
So the one thing is this is unedited. So I will just skip over it. I'm not going to watch this 1 hour, and I would not recommend anyone to watch videos that are that long. Mostly people are just not editing their videos because that takes additional time, and they don't want to put much effort into releasing their videos.
First, we are able to also create the file. Now,
So here's a scriptable object. Okay.
I hope.
So where's the part where
Okay,
he
speed up. So
has it
I'd like to see this
in an
targeted object
editor
as well as
window?
the instance
There. Da-da-da-da.
in this case. So sandbox settings instance. Right. Also, I need to add the using for it.
So here's an instance of the scriptable object. Let me try that out. Don't know if that is even possible. Public static dot instance. I think we can use this here. So this leaves me open with how. Let me see what's going to happen. So we don't have an instance field right here. I don't think that's okay. I don't know how it gets this instance to work. So let's continue first.
What? Oh, come on. Sandbox settings instance. So I also added sandbox runtime here. Now, just because I have the editor doesn't mean I have the visual element that I can inject there. The visual element, you get it by calling the create inspector GUI. So I need to get the visual element. So by calling the create inspector GUI.
So let's look into where he writes the
Say
sandbox
Ink
settings.
I'll show you a
Okay, let's see. He has a scriptable object, and then he writes a getter function inside. Okay, I didn't think that this would work, because then a getter is the same as a static. If a getter works, why would this not work? Okay. And also a get function here. So he has a public and a private instance. And I think you would have to assign them with some code somewhere. Don't know. If there's no instance, he creates one. It's a bit odd. I mean, it will work, yeah, but it's a little bit odd because you get this preset, you get this scriptable object, and you don't have one, and it's going to create itself with some default values. Because he says if it's null, then return itself. But then I think if it's null, then it's going into resources load. Asset name. If it's not initialized, it's going to search for its name, try to return that. And if that's not there, it's going to return itself. Okay, now that makes sense. But this is going to work only at runtime, it seems. And doing edit mode, it would be working with this function. That's why he writes if Unity editor. So he clearly has a good idea what he wants to do, and is he's proficient in what he does. Though I'm a little bit concerned here that if something goes wrong with the loading, that you would create more instances. That's one thing that I'm worried about. And it seems like a little bit unnecessary. I think it's weird to have this scriptable object. I think it's wrong to have it in the scriptable object class. That's why I think. So that's where I think is a problem. I think this should not be in the scriptable object. I think this should be in the editor where you access the scriptable object, because the scriptable object itself is supposed to be just an info container where you can script the settings inside and access them as data. And this defeats. This instance is weird. So I want to do the same thing, except I will put the functions here, the functions that I see, I will put them into the create GUI function instead. So we want to have our parallax group preset. Call this default reset. And we want to say resources. Resources. Oh no, we don't have access to resources.load. That's a problem. So he's using resources load, then the settings and the name. It seems like we don't have the resources. Oh, we do have that. Okay. Load. And then we need the default path. And we're going to define that over here. The string default default preset path. Going to leave that open for now. Going to use it here. It says we have to rename it. Read only. Okay. And the path. Oh, we can have the name inside, not the path. So the default name would be default parallax group preset. It's number 1. Now the user goes in, sees these presets, renames them. Or the user deletes both presets. Now that is legal. We don't want to rely on keeping those. So if we check, if we still don't have that, we want to try to create one. So here, in this case, we want to create an instance. think we need brackets here. Create instance. Parallax group preset. It doesn't tell us where it does this. I don't know where it would put the instance. It could be put anywhere. So we probably want to look into that later. But the important thing is he also uses if Unity editor and then goes in and says Unity editor as a database create asset. It goes in the preset, and then he has this path. In this case, it's assets. So I'm just copying this line of code over here. So assets. I want to copy the path to this preset here. A little bit weird that they are not in presets. Should be. No, I don't know what this will do. Will this be sufficient for the path name? I don't know. Then it comes in the asset name and asset. So I'm not sure if these will do. But if there's no default, create a new one. Not sure. Not sure if that's a good idea. Maybe then we want to specify the name somewhere else, but we can do that by changing this variable real quick.
Save and type of say this is the key, and now let's say public static void save. Let's have a method to save, and I'm gonna say test player preference, and so this is a and download your data. This is how you do it.
So he saves all the stuff inside of the scriptable object into a player prefs object. Oh, player prefs. Player prefs are somewhere in your app data. They are going to be saved.
That now this will disappear. USS and use the default Unity editor, and I'm going to use property fields, right? So let's now I've recreated my editor. So how does this work? Well, when the inspector calls create inspector GUI, it finds the serialized properties. There you go. It creates all the components, the root and the property fields, and then it composes them. It adds to the root everything, and finally it returns the root that contains all of these. And of course, it also does an auto.
So one thing he does that I wanted to avoid is he then goes on and he has these property fields, which are the hard-coded references to the fields of the preset. That's what we don't want to do. Why I said this is also a very hard thing that we want to do. We want to reference the struct in here and display that just like it is inside of the inspector. So we know that this is an inspector and a GUI coded with the UI toolkit. So we somehow have to find how we call the drawer of that inspector or that inspector inside of here. So it just would display the same inspector and we're done. That's all we want to do. We don't want to do every field in here, because that would break dynamically referencing the variables. If you would change the variable name or something, that would actually mean we wouldn't have this immediately inside of this window. Let's say you add another field with speed and do this inside of this preset, and if you hardcode that, then the speed won't be inside of our editor window. So you would say, hey, just put another field inside of here. That's easy. It actually is pretty easy to put another field inside of here. Yeah. But if you really want to do have a good coding style, you want to have it come up dynamically. That means you don't want that the field is just displayed there. You want that it is that you have work in there, because then you change a bunch of stuff and forget what you did. And then you have other fields inside of the preset and in the inspector, and you have to compare those two, and things get buggy very quickly. And if you work like that, it will only work for a certain time, and at a certain scale, everything is going to blow up. Yeah, that's why I said the experience that you make as a programmer at one time, that you think you're clever, you just do it easy and make things fast, and then at a certain point, everything is going to blow up and won't work anymore. And that's what you're going to avoid. That's why you don't skip tasks and keep working on the same task. Yeah. So let's see. What he does here is he makes property fields, serialized property fields, and I say absolutely no, I won't do that. Let's go through his further process. Wait. I want to just try out to display that default preset. Maybe that could work. We still have an error somewhere. Oh yeah, I have this instance. Say no. It's also oh, that actually worked. That actually worked. So okay, that's unexpected. Yeah. So I don't know exactly what we are working on right now. But okay. Do we have tooltips? Yeah, we have tooltips. That's perfect. It's actually and we don't need to watch the rest of this tutorial. So oh dear. Yeah. So we don't need the tutorial anymore. So I don't know what he's going to do 1 hour now. I'm just interested what he's doing the rest of his time. Maybe we will learn something. As I said, this code snippet here was very useful for us, even though we implemented it. I would say we implemented it in a better way. I don't know his exact use case. It could be that he's probably fine with what he did there. So he's also creating a custom inspector there. In the custom inspector, he specifies the individual yields. He serializes them as serialized properties, I think. Yeah, so he instead of having a struct, he has all these values are serialized properties. Yeah, and then he finds them and displays them in property field. And these are his 3 property fields. Actually, this looks like he also constructs his own editor window somewhere. Oh yeah, there it is. And there he finds the instance of his settings. Yeah. Okay. Don't know what he's doing now. Don't want to judge that. As I said, I think he's very, very capable, seems to be experienced. And you can also criticize me for disregarding serialized properties. Because in the end, you get things done with these. I mean, I could even criticize using player prefs. I use them by myself, so not having your own saving system, for example. All these things that I criticize I'm not really trying to criticize them. I'm criticizing the way Unity does it. Yeah, I think, for example, player prefs, they're pretty good. I just wish that we had a little bit more influence on the saving location. But, they also come with the benefit that when we use player prefs, that it's independent of the platform where we deploy our application, which is very, very powerful and takes off a lot of work. And I think especially with the older stuff in Unity, where I would say that the developers just got it, what we wanted to have. While the newer stuff, it often looks like, yeah, now they're trying it to do more dynamically and add more capabilities. And that's actually quite off-putting to me, because they make Unity too big, in my opinion. I liked it that Unity was very... Yeah, I'm actually randomly skipping parts now. So I should probably stop. I liked it that Unity was, at least when I started with Unity, it was not that bloated with systems. Now, when working with Unity, after some time, you felt the limitations that they have. So probably with what they are going to do now is better for professional work, but it's also bad. The bad thing is you need to put in more time to get things done that are actually quite easy. And I would say there's a curve, like this is I don't know, this is one of those is complexity. I think this is complex. And this is flexible. Flex. Okay, now we don't have productivity. I want to have productivity in complex. Maybe this is flexible. Flex, and this is productive. And you start with something, you start with nothing. You're not productive, you're not flexible. Then I would say here you go up very fast when you have your basic functions, like you can click buttons, you can save, and I think to switch these. So this would be productive, and this would be flexible. Also better to imagine. So you get productive with some flexibility, then it plateaus because you come to a limit. Then a little bit more flexibility adds something, and then everything gets more complex. And then when we hope that it's maximum flexible, then it should be better. Oh, forget this graph. I think this is bullshit. So I would say we are here, where with the new UI toolkit and the new input system, we are way more flexible than we were at, let's say this is 2017. This is 2012. I think maybe 2012 Unity. Yeah. So I think between those two versions, not a lot of change were made. They took those systems and made them work well, systems, and made them work really, really well. And if you wanted to do something more, have a better saving system, have better input control for your keys, better UI, you had to buy assets. Yeah, but you as a newcomer, you could work very well. And now then came the new input system, and maybe 2020, and now we are at 2022, no, 2024. We are at 2024, but 2022, this is where the new UI system came in, and we are somewhere here, I guess, where things are getting less buggy, more usable. 2024. Yeah, soon 2025. And you would hope that you would reach this point where things are flexible, but also usable. And then everything is more productive in the end. But we are not there yet. But I also think that this is an illusion. This won't happen. That it, in the end, go like this. Because there's no guarantee that you're going to be faster when you make everything more flexible. Because they also, what they also did is they made things too complex. That's what I just don't like. The Unity system is getting too complex, in my opinion. At least in a complex way where it's harder to make stuff. Okay, now we have this preset. And now I want to know where it has been created. We have one resources folder here. And I don't see that. So that's odd. Can I do something in here? Yeah, I can do something. That's interesting. So where does it save these values? It has to be somewhere. Oh, it did override our default settings. No! So this is how it works. Yeah, so that's the thing that I did not want to have. Now it created a new preset. I think it didn't find the default preset, then created a new one that is, yeah, that's not what we want. But we want to have this inspector. It's quite good. What I want is, we want to create a temporary preset just to display the values inside of here. And when we are done, when we click create, we want to then delete that temporary reset. So let's maybe create another one and say temp reset name. It says it's not used yet. Yeah, and we are saying we want to work in this temporary preset now. Oh, but I messed up. This is how we want to do that. Yeah, and we lost the values of the default preset right now. Oh, that's interesting. It didn't do anything. It's interesting. Let's create a new window and see if it does anything. No. That's interesting. And quite weird. Because it did write these settings with one of these code lines. This one, I guess. But now it's not creating an asset. So let's maybe debug log. Can we do that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now we should be spammed with messages. 1 and 4. Okay. So it says it's that. It's not null. The temp preset is not null. It did find something interesting. But not inside of our project. So, what did you find? I want to see an error message. Yeah, now it has an error message. So, oh. Yeah, okay. Was checking if the name is null. Now we probably will see something. We probably are going to see an inspector. There it is. And it did go to 1, 2, 3, 4. So we know that it did go into this line of code here. And there we can find it. The temp preset is now inside of our resources folder. Yeah, we can start editing that. That's cool. That's cool. Now, when Now what we want to do is we want to have a list at the top. And where we want to have a drop-down menu at the top. So we want to have, instead of we can probably keep the label and say hello. For now, I'm not sure. We're going to put in some text, but we want to have a drop-down menu. Drop-down menu. And we now need to find out how to create that. There's items. Let's see. Does it have a constructor? We don't see the documentation of a constructor. So maybe we need to leave this open? No. Maybe we need a drop-down field. Don't see the difference between those two. Yeah, I can't differentiate between those two and those three. Then we have drop down. So maybe this drop down in general. I don't know. Let's just see what we create here. Can just go into Unity now. See, here's a little drop down menu. Okay. Then we want to find presets and add them to the drop down menu list. Okay. Which would be cool. Dot. Now we need to, I think that it's items or something that we need to add. We just add an element to can't just can't just add anything. It wants to have objects, which is, I think that it should be strings, to be honest. Drop down field. Okay. Let's see if we can find documentation on that. Unity UI toolkit drop down field. And it says it wants us to do this. Choices dot add. Drop down is new drop down field. Then choices add. Okay. It doesn't work for us. Why? Could be that because we cast it as a visual element. So we probably want to keep it as a drop-down field. See if it now disappears because we don't cast it to a visual element. No. Actually, we don't need to do that, and then we added an item. So we can also do this. Here we see options, label, preset, and then we can have a list. We're going to have this list instantiated before. List string. Drop down list. And that is going to be a new list string. And for now, let's add one string that has the name 1, and then we want to put that into the drop-down field. Okay. Let's look that up. Yeah. So if we have now 2 items in here, 1 and 2, we are still going to change the string name, but for testing, this is fine. It's very good. Okay. So we now have this preset here. And we can put in our values. We still need to make give this better default values in the temp thing. Then if we click on create, we have to react on that and give it the function. The function is already there, so that's not the problem. We just have to get the data. Data. I think there's even a discussion how you pronounce that. We have to get the data, the struct, into the function that we have, and then everything is going to be all right. And the only thing that I don't want to see inside of here is this script field. That's because it looks into this inspector and copies it over. I think it is going to be easier to keep it like that. For now. Yeah. It's going to be easier. Still want to maybe say select the preset. So please select the preset which you are going the preset for the time group and edit the values. No. Select a preset on the values of the timelap group. Maybe describe what this is. Window. Create a group timelapse which can be drawn on with the game object tile brush the values will be why do I do this? Because I overlooked something. We need a custom inspector. Oh damn, I forgot about that. I'm going to explain this later. Let's focus on the description now. This will be applied to set of tile maps which will I'm trying to get parallax somewhere in here. Okay, let's just say it like this. Parallax. Okay, now I have parallax in here. So to fill this list, we have to look into the resources. Asset database dot resources. No. Database dot find assets. Want to find this type of asset. No, sorry. Want to find this type of asset. Type of this. Okay. Now this doesn't of course this won't work because this is not acceptable for the parameter. So they've this scriptable object. Script object. And there's 3 of them. Then they try to find them. But unfortunately I don't see them finding by type. I think this is the filter. To do here they say find assets by type, T-type material. So let's try something out. So much not going to work, I guess. Oh, it did find something, but then I think these are actually the presets, but the names these are GUIDs. So we would need to go through these for each. Add them to the list. Okay, let's look at that. We can now add names. What the Oh. What the hell is that? Okay, that is unexpected. That's a very interesting drop-down list. I mean, it will find every preset of that type, but I mean, we could keep it in here as a joke. That's not how a drop-down menu works. Okay. That's very interesting, to say it least. Yeah, so we need to crop the name. Do we have options here? No. Yeah, but there's easy methods here. C# trim path name. There are some default options. There's directory and path. Let's try out path and see what kind of options we have. Path dot get file name. I think that's what we want. You can trim it by yourself if you just code it, but after trimming the file that much, gets kind of redundant. But if you've done it multiple times. So now we have this drop-down menu, multiple names. It's cool. Yeah. The one problem that we have is that this field here, the text that we have in here, is not scaling with the window size. So we probably want to just cut the the text. And then one of the problems that I have here, we need to have this like, you have one layer, then you can define the layer here. But if you have multiple layers, like 6, you have to select the individual, you have to be able to select the individual values for these layers. Actually, you can edit them afterwards anyway. But you have to pick 6 brushes for them. So we need to react on changes of that. So this will be interesting to do. And the one that we don't want to have in here is the temp preset. Don't want to have that. So we want to say string file name is going to be exactly what we already have. File name. We want to put it in here, but only if the file name is not the name of the default of the temporary reset. Let's look that up. Now we don't have the temp preset inside. Why? Because we want to select one of those and have the values be put into the temporary preset. When we create or cancel, the temporary preset is going to be used with its values to create something, and to not override the actual preset that we are working with. Yeah. So this is just temporarily used. And something that I envisioned at the start is that you would see the scale of each layer and set it when you change this value. But I would like to keep these fields intact from this preset. I think that would be a little bit easier to work with. I also want the default width of this window is exactly like this. I want to have one space here. And in the end we need a field down below where we select the brushes for each layer. So there has to be an array at the end with brush settings. Let's go through the current process. And it's broken. Oh, it says it can't find. the reset. And we probably want to point this to the temp reset. But still a problem. Actually, not the path we have in here, it's a name. I'm not sure if can we Unity subfolders in my folder. Is that allowed? Okay, so I think this guy says it's not allowed to have it's not supported to have subfolders in the resources folder. Okay, so let's go in again. So yeah, now we have the problem. I need to get the default values into the reset again. So here are the values that I want to put inside. And they have been deleted. I don't like that. Okay, so we've put them inside, but what I want to do here is I want to look up if I can set default values. No, can't, I guess. Oh, I need a constructor. Create a default constructor. This is it can't be. It can't be. It can't be. It says it can't be without parameters. So what you would do is have it's practical if you program it. Forward name new, something like this, and then you would go in and point those inside. It's weird. I thought it wants me to define every here. Okay. I have no idea what this is going to do, to be honest. Let's just see what happens if we now delete the temp reset and open up a new window here. Okay, it throws an exception. Oh yeah, because we don't have this anymore. We also need to get rid of this part of the path. Ugh. We need to get this path to do. Get the path without assuming the whole path. We need to get the path. I think we could just try to get the default prefab and put it in the same space as that. That would be nice. But we have to get rid of this part. Cannot just assume that the user does not put this anywhere else, and that's a downer. Let's go in here again. Now it created a temp. It did not set the amount of layers to 6. So this constructor was not used. Yeah, so I think the constructor is pretty useless for our case. We can't have an empty constructor. That's what we want actually. That has the default values for most of the cases hard coded into it. And that doesn't work. So we can't have something like this. So what we want to do here is excuse me. Once we have the reset, we want to get the default preset. Copy its values into the temporary one, but only if we have this. If the user deletes the default preset, it's not going to work. Okay, let's look at this again. I think it didn't do anything. Delete this, open up a new window, and we see that the values inside of here have been copied over from the default preset into the temporary preset. and now we can work with that. Okay, that's nice. So I think we're going to end the stream for now. Yeah, thank you for tuning in so far. So we've made a lot of progress with the custom editor window, putting a custom inspector in there. Now we need to, now that we have the custom inspector in there, we have to work out the process, how to edit the individual layers after that. We still have to make an array after that where you select the brushes for each layer. So we still have to do more functions, create more functions to the window, and then add a lot of methods or some methods for the actions that you can do inside of the window. Like when you change the amount of layers, we have to react on that. So we are going to figure that out next time, and we have to then figure out how to react on create and cancel, and how to put that into our to make that fit into the code that we have. Yeah, but I think from what we had before and what we have now, we are making steps forward. They are not fast though, but we are now at the step where we display the values that we have like we want to. Now I have to say I made a compromise there where I say I wanted to make it more dynamic, but the way we display the values right now has the advantage that it's very dynamic and reacts better to change than what I had in mind first, where I wanted to calculate the speed of each layer and display it. But that would also mean that you had 6 fields of individual speeds, and it would get a little bit messy because it would make a lot of fields, especially when you have like 10 or 12 layers. It would get a lot of fields, and I see that it might be not a good idea. That you can still do that afterwards in the individual layers. You wouldn't want to do that automatically. Yeah. Okay. So this is the stream so far for today. I wish you good luck and a very nice evening. Bye.